Former Chancellor George Osborne and his wife Thea Rogers were given an unwelcome surprise at the weekend when a protester crashed their wedding just as they walked out of the church. And she threw orange confetti at the newlyweds and...
It's caused uproar, hasn't it? Yeah, despite Just Stop Oil staging similar protests. The group say it wasn't one of them, but they do endorse and applaud the action. So as protesters continue to target high-profile events, is protesting at someone's precious day, their wedding, taking it a step too far? To discuss this, we're joined by author and commentator Konstantin Kizin and Tracy Mulligan from Insulate Britain. Konstantin first, what do you think? I mean, you know, free speech, somebody's right to throw orange confetti over newlyweds?
Well, throwing things at people in speech are very different things. You were a politician once. Some people might take issue with decisions that you made. Should they turn up at your house and throw... You don't know what they're throwing. You've got to remember this. George Osborne, look, as he's walking away, you can see he looks quite concerned because a stranger is walking up to him and is about to throw something on him and his bride. I think that is erosion of the public safety of politicians. And by the way, we've obviously had a series of incidents in this country and in the United States where, as you know, most politicians are having to walk around with bodyguards now. Is that the society we want to be moving to? Well,
Tracy Mulligan, you are a spokesperson for Insulate Britain. You have taken part in direct protest yourself. You've sat on the M25 a couple of years ago in order to protest. Now, that causes aggravation for drivers, of course. Would you go as far as it to interrupt someone's wedding?
If I'd been asked to do that specific action, I'd have had to say I couldn't do it because I couldn't promise that I wouldn't have slapped him instead of just throwing confetti.
What? Oh, right, you'd hit
Non-violence. I'm really angry. Right, this man is responsible for killing...
Sorry, what's non-violent about slapping someone?
Listen, what I said was I would have said I couldn't do it because non-violence is so important with the resistance that is happening. You know, people are in resistance because we don't want to revolt in revolt. And the truth is, you know, I've heard you, Konstantin, say, you know, that feelings do not matter as much as the truth. And the truth is they killed 330,000 of our most vulnerable. Now, if any other gang of people had done that, they'd be in prison. But because they're MPs, they're having more posh parties.
Right, so...
When was this trial, sorry, where they were convicted of murder? When did that happen?
It's the austerity figures, 330,000
So you're linking
people.
The measures to the deaths of that many people.
I'm giving you...
George Osborne himself, personally, isn't responsible.
Well, you're what about it, aren't you? You said, what about if...
Sorry, you're what about
been asked to do it? What about if it had been not confetti and wasn't just paper? You know, what about if? So I was just playing your what about game. So what about if I'd personally been asked? I'd have had to say I'm too angry with that man and non-violence is really, really important because he also led climate denial, right? You can't seriously be like, oh, poor Georgie boy's feelings with a bit of confetti.
Konstantin,
how did George Osborne lead climate denial?
He was really responsible for a lot of terrible media messaging that went out. He said he didn't want Britain to be leading in it. Do you not know that, Ed?
Climate denial, really?
Yeah, honestly. Shocking, right? I know, and he looks like such a nice man.
I thought David Cameron was the person with George Osborne who persuaded the Conservative Party to embrace saving the planet, hugging a husky, tackling climate change. Was that?
Well, they might have said that to the public, but what they did behind the scenes was not that at all. They were writing climate denial reports. They were cancelling projects that we needed to do. Come on, Ed, you need to do a bit of heavy reading.
Tracy, go and tell us what happened.
Sorry?
Tell us what happened.
What happened with what, darling?
With what you... Sorry, you don't need to call me darling. Tell me what it is that you think Ed should know.
That our government, MPs at the moment, are issuing kill policies, right? We're in this climate crisis.
We're talking about George Osborne.
Are we? I was told we shouldn't talk about George Osborne.
No, you just
said that George Osborne...
about George Osborne that everybody should know. I'm just asking you to explain what it was.
Everybody should know the cost of austerity was 330,000 deaths. He wrote and led the leading of the writing of climate denial. You know, Boris Johnson apologised for it in one of his speeches.
Can you just tell us one thing he did to
step back climate change? You know, it's like letting people like Julia Hartley-Brewer go on Question in Time and say, well, there's just
Sorry, you said you don't like whataboutery and now you're talking about somebody else.
Julia Hartley-Brewer was not a Conservative MP. George Osborne had no role. George Osborne had no role.
All these jobs are linked, right? They go round and round the circles. MPs, media, lawyers, corporations.
In what way is George Osborne connected to Julia Hartley-Brewer? I'm not sure where we're going with this,
Or who goes
Tracy.
on Question Time.
OK.
I didn't understand that at all.
OK, so part of the problem that we have, you're asking how has George and media and other people led us into this mess? By not having the right conversation.
Isn't the bigger question, if you want, as a movement, to insulate Britain or Just Stop Oil, to persuade people that your cause is worth supporting, you have to do things which make people think, well, I support that. People don't support blocking the M25. They don't support, I don't think, throwing things on people, and they don't support people coming on this programme and then not being able to say anything.
But they also don't stop wanting the changes that we need just because they don't like what we're doing.
I want the changes. I want to tackle climate change.
So how are we going to get there?
Well, we got there because I was part of a government which introduced the first ever energy tax into our country.
The courts have just said that our current targets are dismal.
I was talking about 1997.
Failing.
You made an allegation about George Osborne.
Then years wasted.
And then you were unable to substantiate it. And the problem is, you set back the cause.
Julia Hartley-Brewer being on question time.
What's got to do with anything? You set back your cause.
Everything to do with everything. How our media is reporting this, how our MPs are talking about it.
We're listening to you.
We're also concerned
it's not about the media reporting
about saying what is popular.
We're listening
you don't want to just tell the truth.
We're listening to you and what you're saying. Tell me one thing George Osborne did to set back the cause of climate change while Chancellor.
You can all Google it. He said
he
didn't want Britain...
You can't make an allegation about me.
Listen to me then, Ed. Let me finish.
You said to me, get with the programme, Ed, get on top of it. I'm saying to you, tell me one...
I didn't say.
You did say that. You challenged me that I didn't know what I was talking about. So I'm asking you to tell me one thing which proves you know what you're talking about. Tell me one thing George Osborne did as Chancellor to set back climate change.
He didn't put it to the top of the agenda. He didn't talk about it openly and honestly. How are you still denying that climate denial is a thing? The people who led it have been on the documentary...
Who's denying that climate denial is a thing?
Called Big Oil versus the World.
Tracy, hold on.
You know, we did this.
Tracy, who is denying that climate denial is a thing? They've asked you for one example of something George Osborne did, and you haven't been...
He killed 330,000 people, and he
You have an opportunity to persuade millions of people. You have an opportunity right now to persuade millions of people to do what you think.
And you're not saying anything. To set back climate change.
See, what they're doing here, what is going on, is not wanting to have this as a question. Do you remember when Laura Tobin did a lovely segment? Last time Liam was on, he was in this seat. Laura Tobin did a segment on the science. Do you remember what you said as soon as she'd finished? Because it made me cry, Susanna.
Oh, I'm sorry it made you cry. What was it?
You don't remember Laura Tobin giving a...
Yes,
we don't
Laura
really know what you're talking
morning.
about, to be honest. So you might have to tell us a little bit more.
You turned to Liam and said, is your house insulated? Now, that is just all you're doing is setting us up to shoot the messenger.
Britain.
So shoot the messenger. And do you know where that phrase comes from? Don't shoot the messenger.
Why did that make you cry?
Because you heard how terrible things are going to be, water shortages, food shortages, and you smartly looked at Liam and went, is your house insulated? Like that's an intelligent response. That is shooting the messenger.
Sorry, your campaign is literally to get everybody's house insulated. I just wanted to know if the spokesperson from Insulate Britain...
So you think that's an intelligent question? It's so not. We are so being failed.
It's a perfectly appropriate question.
It really isn't in the grand scheme of things, is it? An appropriate question would be, how are people who are poor and in forced poverty dying in the hundreds of thousands going to afford insulation? And should we look after each other and work together?
Yes, that's also a very legitimate question.
Or should you keep talking about
no, that's a legitimate question.
Hurting people on the streets who are asking for this madness to stop?
Yeah. OK,
you know, we need deliberative democracy, don't we? Not this popularity contest.
Do you think when you block the M25, you advance your cause or set it back?
Me, personally, I have seen the effect it had on the people. Last time I was coming on here, I didn't even tell my mum.
What was the answer to the question? Does it advance the cause or set it back?
A little bit of orange confetti and the world will fix its day. So we are advancing the conversation, aren't we?
You can't come on the programme and not answer any questions at all.
How is that not answering a question?
I'm asking you a question. When you block the M25... Do you advance the cause of tackling climate change or do you set it back?
Yeah, because people don't want to cut off their noses.
What's the answer?
I didn't hear about the climate crisis.
Can you answer any questions at all?
Can you give me a few minutes to answer it?
Go on.
So I hadn't heard that there was a climate crisis until there was protest, right? Many of us out there do not know because we trust that our media, our government, if things were this bad, they would let us know. But it's only because I'm disabled that I've had loads of hours to watch select committees read really, really boring, dull reports that I know what is going on, and that breaks my heart. You show all the time people who hate what we're doing on the streets, but I know because I've been on them. There are loads of people who come up to us and say, thank God, because I feel like I'm going mad. What conversation are we having around this?
The problem is that Laura Tobin, who you mentioned a moment ago, advances the cause of tackling climate change when she comes on our programme. And I'm afraid your protests and the way you are answering questions today sets back the cause of climate change.
You don't help, Laura, when you hear Laura and then say, is your house insulated? Like that's, you know, the wit of the world.
I just think you make it worse.
Why is that? I still don't understand why it's in.
You don't understand why that made me cry. No. You don't understand why you hearing about us facing, our children facing drought, famine and war, and your response being, is your house insulated, Liam, broke my heart, Susanna.
Why?
Susanna, may I ask a question?
Yes.
You can.
Tracy,
Good luck.
Just I'm curious, what percentage, if you could tell the people of Britain, what percentage of global climate emissions is Britain responsible for?
OK, so every country is
just answer, what percentage? It's a figure.
Every country is responsible for about 1%, apart from China and India, which we do our dirty work. Grow up.
I'm trying. If we do what you want, which is spend £1.5 trillion, which is about 8 years' worth of the NHS budget,
want to stop funding fossil fuel
net
companies.
zero, if we do that, by what percentage will we reduce global temperatures about which you're so concerned?
But your argument is silly.
Could you answer the question? What impact will we make?
Leading is not telling people what they want to hear. Leading is doing the right thing regardless of what anybody else are doing. And China actually are way ahead of us.
If we reduce...
I'm going to say that is the first thing you've said today, I agree with.
So if we do that...
Give me a bit longer, and I think
what result will we achieve?
It's a really uncomfortable
You've got to tell the people of Britain, if you want to spend 1.5
trillion... And you brought this man in just to argue with me.
If you were to spend 1.5 trillion pounds of British taxpayers' money, what result would you achieve? I think people would like to know that.
What we need is deliberative democracy. We need participatory budgeting. We need people.
So you don't know. You don't know what impact on global temperatures.
And we all need to take responsibility for this.
OK.
Start having real grown-up conversations.
OK, good. OK.